Barely 24 hours after the Naira fell to a record low of 800 Naira to $1 on Saturday on the parallel market, the Nigerian legal tender crashed further to 865 Naira on the unofficial market on Sunday. The Central Bank of Nigeria's website, that's the country's official monetary authority, as of this morning, has the Naira at 438 Naira to $1. But the question is, what is the real value of the Naira? Some observers say that the CBN is refusing to live with reality, insisting that the Naira has greatly lost its value in both the parallel market and the investor and export window. In March 2014, when Godwin Emefiele became the CBN governor, the Naira was at 164 Naira against the dollar at the INE window, but has depreciated despite devaluations, forex restrictions, a clampdown on bureau de change operators and the parallel markets, and now the announcement of redesigning Naira notes, which has prompted some economists to seriously question the decisions and policies of the Apex Bank in the last 8 years. Joining the conversation is Gospel Obele. He's the chief economist for Streetnomics. Gospel, we're back on this again, a conversation surrounding the potential of the Naira, what we need to do, but in a way, I don't think many people are surprised with what has happened over the weekend. So we're at a record low right now of about 865 to 870 Naira per dollar on the parallel market. And that's one thing we know that the CBN is going to hammer on, that is the black market rate, is the parallel market rate. But what do you think is driving the Naira at that market to such lows? You're muted. If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, Tolulope. Thank you for having me. Great question. Yes, which is largely expected because upon the announcement, I mean, a lot of persons were not really expecting that announcement, but upon the announcement, what we've seen is that the short window for the supply-demand exchange led to some form of hike, in the exchange value, which was largely expected as well, because now you have a lot of people demanding for the dollar. People are also trying to further dollarize their savings. There are a lot of uncertainties in the market as regards how the execution of the redesign process will go, and how that may impact availability of cash in the economy going forward. Then again, there are also speculations that the value would depreciate further, and based on those speculations, some persons would rather want to hold on to dollars so that they can further sell as a form of round tripping in the market further down later in the year. Do not forget also that elections are on the way. Christmas is also very close. These are major points that would also further inform or further shape the value of the currency. So this is largely expected. And the rush around the redesign is also a very, very big question. I do not think, or a big risk, I do not think the central bank is ready to handle.
So as I stated earlier, this morning when we checked on the CBN's website, officially the Naira is 438 Naira to the dollar. And some would now have to ask, who really knows the real value of the Naira? Is it the black market, the parallel market that knows the real value of the Naira, or is it really the CBN? So what is even the real value? When you look at the difference between that 438 to about 865 right now, is that where the answer lies, Gospel?
I mean, that's a very, very huge gap. And also coming from when the central bank governor took the office in March 2014, that's a huge gap, going from 160 as well. So yes, I agree with you. Just like trying to say that it's the Nigerian inflation value really at 20%. We all know it's way more than that. All right, if you factor in put a lot of factors and resize the basket, you begin to see that it's way much more than that. Nigerian unemployment numbers as well are way much more than that. So then again, the central bank is locked in its own models and all of that. There's a lot happening around the informal space also that cannot be accounted for. And by the time you factor in all that, plus the fact that we are a strong import-dependent economy, with the rush policies of the central bank in the last 1 year, we now begin to see the real value in quotes, which is always the market value of the Naira, coming for, and it's coming up to almost 850, in terms of exchange is not surprising in terms of what the real value, is to a very large extent.
So when we look at this, you've mentioned, of course, the dollarization of savings, and we're seeing that. I know a few people personally who've cleared out all their Naira accounts and turned everything to dollar because no one simply knows. That uncertainty is also driving some hedgy and risky behavior. But beyond that, what does it even mean for businesses and the economy right now? Many people struggle to get legal, quote-unquote, forex from the central bank and have nothing else but going to the parallel or the black market.
Yeah.
So what's the implication of having a black market right now that's pegging the Naira at 865 to the dollar?
Thank you. I mean, when the central bank rolled out this policy a week ago, the argument was to manage and control inflation. The good side of that argument is that the central bank has realized that interest rates alone cannot do that. Cannot do justice to the inflation numbers, which is what we've been discussing in previous weeks. However, choosing to redesign is also come with its high-end risk if not properly managed, and we're already beginning to see that now. And we know from history that when the naira worsens for any further, it permeates clearly, it just permeates straight into the consumer's pockets. It impacts on consumer spending. Prices of goods and services will go up. Not even goods and services are not directly impacted by the exchange would also go up because of the form of spillover or ripple effect, or some form of perception and engagement by the public, panic and the rest. People would generally want to increase the price of goods and services to be able to secure a larger margin, for a high inflationary economy as we move on. So yes, it's also going to impact on inflationary numbers, which is what the central bank was trying to fight against initially. But now it's sort of like a boomerang effect on the central bank policy. So inflation will likely also increase based on the cost of living points. Then again, the central bank, for those who are saving their monies in dollars, the central bank would also introduce new policies to begin to regulate dollar withdrawal, dollar usage in the economy. And those policies may be a bit more tightening as we move forward. So at the end of the day, it's really going to lead to some form of serious cost pressure and cost crisis on the economy. And when that begins to happen, we're just on a very fast lane, to some form of self-destruction, as the case may be, if you look at it again from the context of the elections.
So it's interesting you say we're on a fast lane to destruction. Some have said Nigeria's on a fast lane to nowhere. But let's look about some of these policies a bit more. So in recent times, we've seen the policies. We know that there's an extensive forex shortage that Nigeria is facing. Some of these policies include devaluation, whether they want to say it's been official or unofficial, the restrictions in forex. We've also seen a clampdown on the bureau de change operators, with the CBN accusing them of sabotaging the Naira by selling foreign currencies above the approved price. We've also seen a crackdown on the parallel markets as much as possible. The CBN has tried this Naira to dollar or this dollar to Naira exchange program with the banks as well. The CBN has also warned Nigerians that are using Naira to purchase dollar to desist from that or be prosecuted. There's so many other things that we've seen the Central Bank of Nigeria attempt to do to get a handle on this situation. Has anything worked? Has anything even shown that it has the possibility of truly working? Or at this point, is the CBN fooling itself?
To a very large extent, I've said this a couple of times, when these policies were being rolled out, clearly these policies were designed to patch the problem, not fix the problem. And until our policies begin to, and you cannot actually use a policy to solve a structural issue. That's the funny thing. Structural challenges require structural reforms. Policies are only enablers to ensure that the structure or the reforms you've made around those structural issues, you have some form of sustainability in view, to ensuring that those reforms are sustainable and they actually work over stand the test of time. That's where the power of policy comes to play. But trying to use policy to solve a problem that is structural is actually a misfit or a misalignment in the economics of financial sector development or monetary policy development. Now, that said, we realized that the central bank had rolled out a series of very patchy policies that do not solve the problem. What is the problem? The problem starts from the fact that the Nigerian economy is not productive. Now, the necessary conditions required for your currency to gain value in the marketplace is that you are competitive, is that you're productive, that your home base is covered at least to a good extent, and you have access to markets engagement. That means you can sell within the confines of the EFTFTA and the ESFTA, and you're leading on that market, and you're doing well in the global market as well. Until you can do that, the economy would not be perceived as productive enough for the value of the currency to be shored up. That's one. Secondly, on a sufficient level now, you now need to begin to think of the institutional arguments and the policy you need to put in place to manage a currency that's probably on the high end of the valuation bit, that's constantly appreciating, such that you are not displaced on the currency wars argument. As just like what the Fed is trying to do with the dollars, just like what China wants to do with the yuan and all that. Now, putting all these things into context, what I'm really saying is that the central bank hasn't driven towards a necessary condition of productivity or a sufficient condition of protecting the currency or protecting the value of the currency. So meaning that we are lost in the act of patching policies, thinking all will be well. But we realize that that has worsened over the years, and inflation has grown to become a very, very stubborn variable in the context of things. So I do not think the central bank is moving anywhere, forward positively with this. I think the central bank is also firefighting to a very large extent because the construct of inflation are not necessarily monetary. As much as yes, interest rates are not enough, redesigning the currency is not also enough. There has to be a strong commitment on the fiscal side, a good compromise as well to make the structural base work. Until that is done, no matter what the central bank introduces as a policy, and the central bank is not in the place to fix structural issues. That's where the major problem is as well. So at best, we just keep firefighting, introducing policies until we can get a strong mix of a central bank leadership that aligns properly with the vision of a fiscal side leadership, or vice versa. That's the only grounds upon which the Naira would be steady at a level of value, because upon those grounds will be the productivity drivers and institutional management drivers as well.
All right, so you've answered one of my final questions in terms of options in what the CBN can do to either slow this trend or reverse it. But now I have to ask this big question, and that means where do we see the Naira on the parallel market in just the next few weeks? Gospel, hold on. I want to take our audience through what this will look like. So the exchange rates opened the year at about 565 Naira to the dollar, depreciated to around 615 Naira to the dollar by the end of June, around a 50 Naira depreciation in 6 months. However, since July, it has depreciated from 615 Naira to around 775 Naira, or about 165 Naira, weakening in just 4 months. The exchange rate crossed the 700 Naira mark on the 2nd of September and has declined rapidly since then. It ended September at about 735 Naira to the dollar. And if it ends October, today is the last day of October, at 800 Naira, then this month will likely go down as one of the worst months of depreciation in the history for the black markets with Nigeria's Naira. And that considers, of course, that the currency is depreciating by a whopping 65 Naira to a dollar, or however it moves. Now, black market currency traders have said they fear the Naira could hit 1,000 Naira to the dollar before the end of the year. Nigeria is entering its festive season. There's movement around. You've mentioned elections as well. I'm going to ask you for that crystal ball. Gospel, what do you think we should be looking at? And of course, that's on the black markets. We don't know even if the CBN is willing to budge on what they say is the official rate.
I mean, whatever the CBN says is official rate, with all due respect, does not matter right now, because Nigerians are feeling it, businesses are feeling it, and it does not make any economic sense. All right, the central bank and all the institutional stakeholders have to come in terms with the truth. It's hard, but it's what it is. The parallel market is what it is right now, and I won't be surprised if it hits 1,000 Naira by 31st December 2022. That's a very possible option. Within the range of 950 to 1,000 by 31st December is very feasible. Nigerians who are really, really financially literate as much as possible need to begin to think of other way out. Need to begin to also help those who are financially illiterate to also pull their weights up, because the storm is coming, and within the range of 950 to 1,000 is a possibility on or before the end of 31st December 2022. And let's not also forget that elections will run through the first quarter of next year. So this trend is still likely to continue because there will be more pressure for FX demand. 60% of the Nigerian economy runs on black market FX demand. I mean, people pay school fees on those grounds. People forget from a lot of people pay school fees on those grounds. A lot of people go for treatment, send their kids abroad, for education and other reasons, tourist reasons and all that, on the grounds of the informal market. Secondly, let's not forget that the policies the central bank will introduce in a bid to manage the dollarization of savings and all that would also have a ripple effect on the parallel market. All right, because if people cannot find dollars that they've saved, or whatever the case may be, through the banks, they would now resort back to the parallel market. And these are the same bureau exchange operators that you probably, withdrawn license from, and you're probably trying to tightly regulate. So the tight regulations, the internal controls, the festive period, would come together as another pressure point to worsen currency. We're not trying to be pessimistic. It's just the truth. When you don't do what you need to do when you should do them, you get to pay the consequences as you go on. And again, let's not forget that by the time the central bank redesigns this currency, the supply strength or the supply edge would be with the central bank. So that means the central bank has the advantage. That means the level at which those monies are available in circulation as legal tenders, that means the new notes, is still a function of how much the central bank is willing to supply into the economy. Now, as a means to controlling the electioneering and all of the votes buying, the central bank may be intentional about how much of the new notes can get into the system in Q1. And in that means trying to control vote buying and the likes. And that can also have its own ripple effect on the inflationary curve or the value of the Naira as it were. So it's a huge, big task on the table for the central bank to do. And I don't think the central bank is
up to the task.
Is up to the task alone as an institution to get it done.
So, Gospel, I lied. There's actually one question now because of what you just said. If we're looking at the Naira possibly hitting between 950 to 1,000 December 31st or somewhere around, because the traders are saying it may not wait till December to reach that, and we still have the pressure of the elections, is there the potential for the Naira to go over that 1,000 mark heading into 2023?
By the end of Q1, it's not an impossibility as well. I mean, by the end of Q1, it may not be an impossibility. The reason is because by the end of Q1, you're not looking at, there will also be global global interest rate hikes. Let's not forget that argument. There will also be the post-Christmas period managing of that impact as well. There's also going to be the elections, which will be the core of the very core. Then the results from the redesigning or the supply of the new notes, which will now be the legal tender, and the current notes will be illegal tenders past January 31st. So how the economics of these events are managed is a different conversation entirely.
Yeah.
And we will get to see the result by 1st of April 2023.
All right, it's Gospel Obele, thank you so much. You said a storm is coming. I don't know if it's raincoats we're looking for, umbrellas, or we should all just bunker down at this rate and see how quickly it can pass. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me as well.
All right. And it's not about pessimism, but it is about following the trends. And as I said earlier, if you follow the trends with the Naira, there is an expected depreciation that may be hitting around 950 to 1,000 before the end of the year. Currency traders on the black markets are saying it could even happen in November. How will the economy handle this? And how will Nigeria's policymakers handle this crisis?